Hey YouTube, so it's Dr. Hannah again, back with my results for Ancestry DNA. So this is actually not just about Ancestry DNA, but also about Gedmatch.com, which is GED match.com, and also Dna.land. Just to give my results from those websites and also my comments about ease of use and accuracy and things like that. So just about my background really quick. Both my parents are black. My mother's Jamaican, my dad's American. I know I have Scottish on both sides. My mother's grandfather was Scottish, and on my dad's side, it was like my great great grandfather. And we also have like a little bit of Native American, some a little bit further back. Cherokee, Choctaw, and Crow is what my dad told us. But I'm expecting that to be the minority of my DNA. And yeah, so that's it. African, some Scottish, and then a little bit of Native American. And so my actual results from Ancestry DNA was 71% Africa, 29% Europe, and it didn't show any Native American on Ancestry DNA. But if you're like me and you know there's some in your family, but it doesn't show up with Ancestry, go to Gedmatch because they have access to ancient DNA samples, not just from the current living populations. And you can also look at your chromosomes, your DNA chromosome by chromosome, and you can see like if it's something that's like a really small amount. Because I did find the Native American ancestry that way. It was a very small amount, less than 1%, and that's why they didn't include it with Ancestry DNA. So I understand that, but it is there. Now to break down the countries for Ancestry DNA, it said that I was 71% African, but of that 33% Nigerian, which is basically like having one grandparent that's full-blooded Nigerian and then another grandparent that's part Nigerian. 13% Cameroon Congo, 8% Senegal, 7% Ivory Coast Ghana, and 6% Mali, 3% Benin and Togo, and less than 1% Africa South Central hunter-gatherers. Now for Europe, I got 29%. 21% of that was from Great Britain, which is again like having a grandparent that's from Great Britain, because you get 25% of your DNA from each grandparent. The other 8% though is 4% from Ireland, 1% from Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain and Portugal, less than 1% European Jewish, less than 1% Finland/Northwest Russia, and less than 1% Europe East. None of that really surprised me. I already knew, like I said, that the majority of it will be from Scotland, which Great Britain is England and Scotland. It doesn't really differentiate between the two. So that made perfect sense. None of this was really a huge surprise for me. Now, but when I go to Gedmatch, that's where it gets a little bit more interesting because they do have ancient DNA samples, so like samples from like Neanderthal remains, like mummies and things like that, in different archaeological sites around the world. One of the things that was really surprising was I had Native American ancestry from 3 different regions. So I had some I looked at compared my DNA to the ancient DNA samples. There was one from Montana, which is where the Crow people come from, is Montana. And I had a lot of DNA markers in common with that ancient DNA sample. And that sample is from like 8,000 or 12,000 years ago. There's another one from Washington as well, Washington State area. I had a lot in common with that one. But the other two, one was from like ancient like Arctic, so like Inuit, like northern Canada and in that area, Alaska. And then there was the one that was most recent from like less than 1,000 years ago was from Brazil. That was a shocker. I didn't expect to have any Native American ancestry from Brazil. Not exactly sure how that got in there. Maybe it was from, I don't know how that got in there, to be honest. I have my guess, like maybe like an African slave was, it's like some of the African slaves got mixed with the Native American, and then they got shipped to the Caribbean or to to the Americas, to North America. I mean, I don't know, or maybe it was the white ancestors. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know how that got in there. But anybody, if you have any more information on that, I'd be interested in finding out more about that. But that was really the only surprise for me. They said I had a little bit of East Asian, a little bit of like less than 1% East Asian, less than 1% Middle Eastern, that kind of stuff. Gedmatch is good for the ancient DNA samples that they have in their database, which gives you more context about your ancestry. And they break down the different groups, human groups, a lot more than Ancestry. Ancestry just gives you the country. Gedmatch gives you more groups. And but my favorite one so far was Dna.land. So let me just make this clear. Ancestry.com, I paid about $100, but once you pay for that, you get your raw DNA data file, and you can download that to your computer and then upload it to Gedmatch.com and Dna.land. And those two websites are free. They analyze your DNA for free because they're run by scientists that just want your data. So Dna.land is the only website offering DNA analysis that breaks down your ancestry by ethnicity using your autosomal DNA. So, for example, let me give you my results with that. So it said that I was 65% African, whereas Ancestry said I was 71%. And of that 65% African, it said West Africa 64%, East Africa 1.3%. And then from the 64% West African, it says Lower Niger Valley 61% and Mende/Akan 3.2%. But when you click on the Lower Niger Valley, and it tells you the ethnic groups that are included from the Lower Niger Valley. And so it says what I already guessed was probably Yoruba, because Ancestry said Nigeria, and I did research on the different ethnic groups there, and like they said that the Yoruba have the highest rate of twin births in the world. And I have I'm a twin. My mother has two twin brothers. My cousin, she had twins. She miscarried, but she had twins. And I think there's some other twins on my mother's side alone. That's a whole lot of twins. So I suspected that we might be Yoruba. So this just confirmed it for me, because it says it includes the Yoruba and Asan. And then it tells you all the ethnic groups that it does not include. So that's very specific. It gave you two specific ethnic groups from that 61% of my DNA, DNA comes from. So that was really, really interesting. And then even the rest, the other 33% of my DNA is West Eurasian, and then it said 1.2% is ambiguous. I couldn't figure out what it was, but I'm fine with that. But the West Eurasian, they break it down into many different groups, from Mid-Turkic to North Slavic, Ashkenazi, South European, South Central European, Balkan. These are all very small percentages. The largest was 19% from Northwest European, and they say that includes Scottish and British, and Norwegian and Orcadian. So, but it's Scottish. I already knew that it was Scottish because my mother's grandfather was Scottish. I already knew that. And then on my dad's side, we already know we're Scottish. So that just confirmed it for me. Like the Dna.land, please check it out. It's really good. And it's the only one that gives you actual ethnic groups, especially for people that don't know what their background is, especially if you're African American or if you're anywhere in the African diaspora, and you don't know where your African ancestors come from, exactly what ethnic groups they came from in Africa. This can give you a much better idea. Or if you have any kind of ancestry and you don't know exactly where your people come from, I think everybody should try a Dna.land. It's one of the newer websites. They have some other cool features on there, like predicting your traits based on your DNA, like your eye color and your height and intelligence and things like that. Gedmatch also does. They only predict your eye color actually on Gedmatch. This one predicts several different traits. But yeah, I'm gonna keep it at that. I don't want this video to get too long, but depending on which site you use, you're gonna get slightly different results because the results are only as accurate as the number of samples they have in their database. So if they have a large number of samples for each population that is proportionate to the population, then they're going to have better results comparing your DNA to those populations' DNA samples. But I won't get too much into the details about that. But definitely, I liked Ancestry DNA because the way that it links you with people that you're related to, and actually got linked up with a cousin of mine that lives in the state over from me, which is crazy. His half sister started the account for him and then contacted me after she saw that, it said that I'm like a second cousin, which means our fathers were first cousins. And that was crazy. Like, I didn't expect that to happen. But Ancestry DNA is really good for that, linking you up with people that you're related to.